Right, two connected pass pawns. White to play. Pause the video. Decide what you would do. So we've got these two pawns on g3 and h2 that just sort of look after themselves. The black king can have a plan to try and hold them up by just sort of going back and forth between g4 and h3. Because we can move pawns twice on the first go, that plan's not going to last very long. So I don't know, let's just play king d4. Seems like a sensible first move. King g4. We can play h4. It's like, okay, well, your pawns moved twice on the first go. I couldn't stop that. But now I'm going to do this. I'm going to move my king back and forth on h5 and g4. And, we've got to try and stop that. So we've got to stay in the square of this c-pawn. Otherwise, it runs. But we can stop the king h5, king g4 drawing plan because we can come to f3 while staying in the square of that c-pawn. Black can't push the c-pawn, by the way, when you can just go and round it up because your connected g and h pawns will look after themselves. So king to g4, saying, oh, you're not going to stop me coming to g4. And it's just like, well, I am. So king f3. So black has to move back, and then we're one rank further up. King f6, say. No, king f4. And we're just going to do the same plan. Okay. We don't want to push the g-pawn, by the way. If we push the g-pawn, that would be a big mistake because now black really has got that drawing plan, and we can't stop the black king coming to either g6 or h5 without leaving the square of the c-pawn. So do not push the g-pawn. But we instead push the h-pawn. Black does this. We've got a bit of triangulation messing about to do, but not particularly difficult. The black king has to go back again, and we've got our pawns to the 5th rank. But if we carry on with the same plan now, it's not going to work. Let's say black plays king h7, and we try h6. Because the problem is we can't put our king on f5. Let's say we go, or king f5, black king d6. Black's just going to do this. And as soon as we go king f5, we've lost, in fact. Yeah, what do you do here? This is just gone. Okay, so we can't do that. So when you get your pawns to the 5th rank, you have to be a bit careful about which one you push. And the one you push needs to be the g pawn. Now black can sort of make, just to be a little bit obstinate, and play king h6. What we're trying to do is engineer this position, or the same thing with the black king on f6, but with black to move. But black can only get to f6 or h6 in an even number of moves from where they are. So we can just triangulate. We can stay in the square of the c-pawn. I don't really care where black comes down. They've got to stay in contact with g6. So f6, h6, don't really matter. Doesn't really matter, sorry. I was trying to say I don't really mind, or it doesn't really matter, and ended up saying don't really matter. King f4, king back to g7. So you can engineer this position from the starting position relatively risk-free. If I go back to the original position, so we can go from there to there, which obviously is massive progress, without much risk involved, to be honest. The only risk you had at any given time was that you pushed the wrong pawn out of the g or the h pawn, and it's a draw. But from here, well, it might still be a draw from here. It might be that if you make a run for it, the black c pawn goes and you've lost. So you can't. But the point is you've always got the draw as insurance, because at any given time, as long as you've got your two connected pawns, they look after themselves, and you can just come and stick your king on. You can have the same sort of drawing plan as black. It's trivially drawn for white if they want to draw. But obviously if they've got a win, they don't want to draw, they want a win. So this is the point where they need to decide, are they going to make a run for it? Do you go for it? You've got to count out the moves. And you do go for it. King g5. Black c-pawn goes. Here we go. h6, check. So black's got 3 choices. They all lose. Let's go through them. King f8 will meet with king f6. c2, g7 check. If the king goes to e8, it's over. Obviously, g8 equals queen. So we've got king g8, king g6, c1 equals queen. You had to be a bit careful, by the way, when you made your decision to go for it. You had to be a bit careful that that wasn't queening with check, because then that would be a bit embarrassing, and it's not. That's checkmate for white. We could try king g8, same first move. Black pushes the c pawn. This time we go h7 check. King h8. Obviously king f8 was h8 equals queen mate. So king h8, king f7, queen, and then we get this little checkmating pattern that is worth being familiar with. It's quite nice. Again, if the black queen was guarding g6, you couldn't have done that. And finally, king h8. King h8 doesn't change much, to be honest, and we could still just play king f6 to win. But you can also play g7 check and then king f6. You couldn't play g7 check when the king was on f8, because king f7 would have, I think, won actually for black, looking at it. But you can play it here because black can't play king f7. So if they go king h7, well, king g8 is checkmate next move. King h7, we go king f7, c2, and we get the same nice little checkmating pattern. So the critical position with these two connected passed pawns was there. You can engineer that reasonably risk-free, and then you just decide whether you're going to go for it, count out the moves. I mean, you could almost even learn as well that if the if the defending side's connected passed pawn is on your fourth rank, then you just need to set this up with your two connected passed pawns, and it will be a win. I don't know if I'd want to learn that as a rule particularly, just in case it goes wrong, because I would, even if you learn that as a rule, you would need to be very sure that when they queen, it's not going to cover one of the squares you need or check you. g6 is a pretty important square in this position, for example. Right, so here's a game from 1875. It's white to play. The bloke playing white is called Potter, and as Potters tend to do, he just messed it up. He just agreed to draw. I suppose it's better than resigning, but yeah, I mean, it's not a draw. It's a very easy win, and once you've looked at that 1851 study that we just opened with, you see it's the same. I mean, it really is just the same. We've got A and B pawns instead of G and H pawns, and your opponent has a protected pawn on the fourth rank. The only thing you have to check is when black queens, a queen on d1, is that going to mess up our plans? Maybe it's covering the a6 or the b6 square or the c6 square or something. Maybe it's going to cause a check and we're going to end up with egg on our face. Well, it's not, is it? It's not doing anything. We don't need to go to the d file. We're not going to be on a4 if we make a run for it. So it's just the same. I don't know, what does black do? King c7. Let's play b6. We have to play b6 check. We don't want to push the a pawn, same as before. We'll try to make white's life, I was going to say a little bit difficult, but not really. You can't come to b5. It's like, well, I can. So, oh, okay. So king back to b7. And this is the point. Do you make a run for it? And there's not really anything to discuss. We've just discussed it in the previous position. The only thing to be careful of was, does d1 equals queen arrive with check or anything? And it doesn't. So king b5, and what does black do? I just go for the d3, and I'll play the check. I'll go for the top engine move here. King c8. Well, that's what we get. King c6, d2, there. I mean, you're either going to get b8 equals queen check and back to b1, or black goes for the checkmate with the pawns. That sort of elegant checkmate. But yeah, in an embarrassment to all Potters out there, Potter from 1875 just agreed a draw there, when it was a reasonably, I think Dvoretsky calls it an elementary win. Right, this is a game from 1970. White to play. Pause the video if you like. Have a go at working out how you'd go about winning it. In the actual game, it's in the tragicomedy section of Dvoretsky, and the guy plays g7 and king f7, h6, king g8, and black's drawing plan's very clear. There's just nothing white can do. White can never make a run for it. I mean, they could probably move their king up the board, and black has to play king h7. So something like king g5. Black has to sort of come and stop king g6. Or in fact, interestingly, they had to stop it with king f7. Sorry, they had to do that because you still had king h7. Sorry, was a blunder there because of king f6. So there's still maybe a bit going on. Maybe not as trivial as I thought, but yeah. The point is, white can't win that. So what you need to do instead is push the h pawn. Black will play king f6, h7, and that's the pawn configuration that you want, the g6 and h7. So black will play their king back to g7. And now this is the bit where, can you make a run for it? Because as soon as you step up to the 5th rank, the e-pawn's going to go. And you can. King f5, e3, king e6. e2 is not looking good, but we queen with check, come into f7, and we're going to get that rather elegant mating maneuver again. So yeah, in the game the guy plays g7 and messed it up. Although I just messed up a minute ago, not realising that if we do make a run for it with king g5, black has to play king f7 there. Have to be a bit careful because king h7, we've got the same trick going on. Right, so this is one of the exercises in Dvoretsky, but it actually comes from a game from 1998. It kind of looks like a study at first, but it actually comes from a game. Pause the video, white to play, see if you can work out a way to win it. So this one took me absolutely ages to sort out, and it was sort of just driving me mad as to how you'd go about it. What you kind of want to try and do is, I mean, you're going to be doing the making a run for it thing, and getting a checkmate just as black queens. So for example, in an ideal world, and we'll play f7 check, and in an ideal world we want black to play king f8, because then we can play king takes d5, and when the e pawn runs we can come into e6, and we're threatening king f6. e2 would be a blunder because we get the checkmate. Okay. And to be honest, black's stuffed because king g7 stops king f6, but then you do this, and then we're playing f8 equals queen. So when we play f7 check, if black plays king f8, we take on d5 and we've won. And that's worth sort of understanding to think about how you actually solve this position, as it were. But black's not going to play king f7. Black's going to play king g7. And we can never be ready to take on d5 because we can't triangulate. We can never be ready to take on d5 whilst the black king's on f8. Like, we have to stay in contact with the e-pawn. So f4 and d4, from here, the white king can only arrive on those two squares in an even number of moves. I mean, sure, it can get to e3 in an odd number of moves. In fact, it can only get to e3 in an odd number of moves, because black's just going to do this. I mean, they could use e7 as well if they want whilst they're waiting, but they're just going to do that, and we can only get back to d4 in an even number of moves. And we kind of want to get back to d4 in an odd number of moves, because then the black king would be on f8 and we can play king takes d5. If we could triangulate, we could do it, but we can't triangulate. I mean, the black pawn is covering the squares we'd want to use to triangulate. So we can't play f7 because black will just play king g7. And we can't play g7 because black will play king f7. And we've got the same problem. The black king is always going to be able to arrive on the 7th rank when we've played king f4. So we kind of have to lose a move somewhere in it from this original position. I mean, it doesn't go anywhere if we just sort of move the king around. We've still got the odd even problem going on. So we have to lose a move somewhere, and the point is, what you want to do is go to e3, and then when black plays king f8, now we need to push one of the pawns, but we need to push the right pawn, because if you push the g pawn, black will still just say, well, I'm not going to the 7th rank because that's going to fit into your odd even business. They'll just play king g8, and again, king f4 is going to be met by king f7. And we've failed to solve the odd even problem. So what you do, the winning move is f7 from here, and black would like to say, well, I'm just going to play a move and then play king g7 next move. So next move, when you play king d4 or king f4, I can meet it with king g7 or king e7, and unfortunately it just doesn't exist, basically. So king g7, you're forced to come to the 7th rank, and we've finally engineered the position we want, where the black king is on f8. So it's like an odd even thing going on, and we just take on d5 now, e3, into e6, and we're threatening king f6, g7 mate, and we've already been through this position, haven't we? It's gone. White's won that. Yeah, so well done if you got that. We need to sort of recognise the odd even problem going on, and bring your king to e3, and when the black king goes to f8, play a move that scuppers their plan to delay coming to the 7th rank. We play f7, they have to come to the 7th rank, and you've just tricked them out of the odd even thing. Right, this one, oh, just ruined it. Just ruined it by showing one of the final positions. Pause the video, and this is a Grigoriev study from 1932. So when Grigoriev's involved, it's usually pretty mental, and this one's no exception. Pause the video and see if you can have a go at working out what you would do here. I mean, it's one of those studies that, from my perspective, that you don't get. There's too much going on, but it's still kind of nice to go through it and understand what's happening. Let's just check first of all what happens if white does the making a run for it thing, because we've got these connected pass pawns in the optimal positions, g6 and h7. So remember, the plan is we're going to get our king to a place where it can reach f7, push the h pawn, come into f7, and we've got the checkmate idea. So let's have a go at that. So king g3, b5, king f4, b4, king f5, b3, king e6, b2, h8 equals queen, king takes, king f7, b1 equals queen, check, check, not mate. The black queen is covering g6. That was one of the things I said earlier on, you just need to check for. I mean, it's still fairly easy to draw this. the engine's just saying draw, draw, draw all the way, but it's not a win. So yeah, if you make a run for it, it's no good. Black just pushes the b pawn. I don't think we can stop the b pawn, can we? So if we come over this way, oh yeah, we can get in the square of the b pawn, but then black's got this business going on. This is quite nice actually, the way this works out. So king d3, b3, king c3, check this move out, d4 check. It's just amazing, isn't it? I mean, obviously if we take on b3, then black's going to have connected passed pawns of their own, and it's just going to be a mutual sort of hold up. If we take on d4, f4, and well, these two pawns, the floating square of them has reached the back rank, so we're actually in a bit of a spot of bother here, and we're getting into all these crazy pawn race things going on. I'm just looking at the engine moves now, but all these sort of pawn race things going on. Queen, can we go queen there? Yeah, and apparently black can get a draw here. I mean, it looks like there's a lot more to think about there actually, but it is just a draw apparently. So anyway, the main theme with the two connected passed pawns, if we make a run for it, it doesn't work because the black queen is covering g6. The only winning move is e4. And I mean, black has to deal with that. You cannot allow that d pawn to run with a pawn on h7. That's clearly winning for white, even if we have to chuck in the h8 equals queen check and then d8 equals queen check trick, which I don't even necessarily think we need to do actually. But even if we needed to chuck that in, it's clearly won for white. So black has to deal with that. If they take, then we can make a run for it, because the black pawn on e4 is stopping the black queen from defending g6. How about that? So they can't take that pawn. Well, they can, but they'd need to try something else in a sec. So I'm just wondering also about d4. I forgot to look into d4. Then we can play king g3. Why can't they just push the b pawn? Oh, because it doesn't matter. Sorry, d4. It doesn't matter because our pawn's blocking g6, so we can still just sort of make a run for it. But they can try taking, and they can try this little trick here. So when we get king f4, they don't just carry on pushing the b pawn. Their e4 pawn's blocking the queen defending g6. They give us this to think about, simultaneously opening up the defense of g6 and stopping our and forcing our king back a rank basically. So king takes e3. Then we go, they'll go b4. We're going to still go king d4. That's a dual purpose king move, coming to collect the b pawn if black does nothing, or making our way to e6, ready to jump to f7 after h8 equals queen check. If black just does nothing here, I think we can just collect the b pawn, can't we? I think we can collect the b pawn and stay in the square of the f pawn. Yeah, so black can't do nothing, and they certainly can't push the b pawn, which is sort of the equivalent of doing nothing. We're still going to get to the b file and then back to e2 in the same number of moves. So the only thing that black can do is push the f pawn, which means we now can't go and collect the b pawn because they'll play f4 and we're not in the square. But as soon as they push the f pawn, they've blocked the queen's defense of g6 again. I mean, it's just mental. These studies. It's how did Grigoriev find all these things? It's just, and I suspect there's something I've missed as well. I suspect there's a line I've missed in all of it as well that he had covered. But wow, how about that on the two connected passed pawns? I thought, yeah, brilliant position. The only winning move is e4 because you've got to block the black queen's defense of g6 in that eventual checkmating trick, checkmating maneuver. But even in that line, you had to see that black's got this extra sneaky try, reopening the b1 queen's defense of g6. But after this, they have to then voluntarily block it again with f5. Yeah, is anyone surprised that I didn't get this study the first time I saw it? I don't even know if I'll get it again. If you give me this position again in 6 months, even though I've just made a video involving it, try me down the club, get the original position. Just sort of, try me in December 2025. Come up to me, show me this position. White to play. What would you do here, John? I bet you I mess it up. Yeah. How are we doing for time? So that's, I'm just getting on towards half an hour. I've got one more position on the theme of these connected passed pawns. Pause the video, have a go at it. What would you do as white in this position? This is a study, not Grigoriev this time, Kopayev or Kopayev. I think I've demonstrated many times that my Russian pronunciations are worse than dreadful. I mean, I probably haven't. I'm almost certain I'm not even saying Dvoretsky's name properly. I'm just sort of doing it in English phonetics. What would you do here? White to play. There's only one winning move, and it's King b6. The point is, what we're trying to do first of all is set up a bit of a mating net, so that if black plays rook takes h6, we can go rook g5, and we're threatening rook g8 mate. If black pushes the d pawn to give themselves the d7 flight square, then we can threaten it again with king c6. If they went, I don't know, how might they try and get out of it? King to b8, then we can just check and then play f7. That's not a problem. If they go king d8, that's mate. They don't want to do that. And the only other thing to do really is rook h8, but then we can play f7. So they can't play d5 to get out of it. What else could they try? They could go rook h8, that gets out of the mating net, and then we can play f7, and there's just nothing they can do to stop rook g8. Rook g8 is just going to be lethal, isn't it, next go? King d8 is no good because we play checkmate. I mean, that's it really. They can't take on h6. The most sensible thing for them to do is to bring the king over straight away, but it's kind of some of it sort of transposes. We play rook g5, threatening that same checkmate, and the point is that when black plays king e8, so now they're right over amongst our pawns with the f7 square as a flight square. Then we play check, king f7, check, takes, h takes g7. You might have been looking at the original position thinking, how on earth has this got anything to do with the two connected passed pawns? But that's how we get to it. So there's mating net threats with the original king b6 that gets us into this position. And you can see black's sort of in big trouble here. The plan is we're going to get our king to d6 and push the g pawn, basically. So, I don't know, black might try e5. We can go king c5. They just keep playing e4. This is quite interesting, actually. There's only one winning move from here. See if you can work out what it is. And it's to do with the same odd-even thing that I talked about in that position earlier on. So if you just sort of sloppily play king d4, black can play d5. and you can't take on d5. You need their king to be on g8 when you take on d5, just like that position earlier on. So the only winning move here is the brilliant king c4. If black pushes the e-pawn, you just go and take it. That's trivial. They might try and be clever with d6, because if they play d5, then you play king d4, and now we can take the. In fact, do we take the d-pawn or we come to? I think sorry, we have to come to f4. It's the odd even thing again. King back to g8, and this is the point where you make a run for it. So we didn't take the d-pawn. We actually make a run for it over here. Yes, if they play d5, we're winning with that maneuver. So they might try and be clever with d6, and again, you've only got one winning move. And this is just a bonkers study, isn't it? This one. You have to play king c3. d5 transposes, e3 loses the e-pawn. So let's just look at the d5 one again, the king d4, and we've got the odd even thing going on again with blacks. I mean, black has to play. I suppose they could go king h7, couldn't they? But yeah, king g8, king e3, king f7, and the point is we arrive on f4 with the black king then being forced to move back to g8, and now's where we make a run for it. If the e-pawn, that's checkmate next move. If king f7, we've got king h6. King g8 would then transpose to the checkmate next move position. e3, there, queen. I mean, everyone saw that, right? From this original position, everyone just played all of that out and worked it out. It's mental, isn't it? King b6, you can't take on h6. Black's best, we went through all of that. That was a bit more straightforward, I suppose. Black's best tries to run the king over, give themselves the f7 flight square, and then we get the connected passed pawns. And we tried pushing the e-pawn, didn't we? Is there other drawing tries? What does d5 do? d5, just play king c5. Yeah, that's much easier, isn't it, to see that one? What about d6? Then we can come into c6. d5 transposes to what we just looked at. e5, just go king d5, I presume. Yeah, it's gone. So yeah, black's most sneaky drawing try was e5, e4, and you've only got one winning move here, which is not king d4. It's king c4. And when they play, well, first of all, they've got d6, another sneaky try. You've got to meet d5 of king d4, so you don't play king d4 straight away. You play king c3, then you come into d4. And the point is you want to be ready to meet king f7 with king f4. It's the odd even thing. But notice a minute ago, I messed it up. You know, I don't know if I actually said it, but I was on the verge of saying, yeah, it's in this position we can take on d5, and actually that's just not true. That loses. It's on the other side we need it to be. So it's the odd even thing going on. Yeah, well done if you got that. So those last two, the Kopeyev 1947 and that Grigoriev 1932, they were pretty bonkers positions, but that was a nice exercise. That was from a game from 1998. The odd even thing was quite interesting, I thought. So that cropped up in all those three that we just looked at. What was this one? That was just sort of making a run for it. That was Potter messing up and making a run for it. And the very first one, yeah, we can get from that position to that position. In terms of practical gameplay, I've seen this sort of thing happen in games. I was watching a game at the Lancaster Congress. I remember standing over the guy who actually won the Lancaster Congress ahead of me. He had this game. He had a position like this in the sort of the Blitz mess around evening that they had on the Saturday evening, and he didn't have much time, and he went for it and won. So it was a very similar position to this. So you can use your 2 connected pass pawns to engineer this position. They can kind of go up the board risk free without leaving the square of this pawn. But then at some point you're going to make the calculation of, do you make a run for it? That's probably the most useful thing I think I can use in practical play. I'll be pretty amazed if I ever get the odd even thing going on in one of my games, but it's nice to understand. Maybe there's a transferable skill there somewhere, and who knows? This was from a game, so maybe this will come up in one of your games.